All right, YouTubers. So I had a viewer ask me whether, they should pick between the i7 12700 and 12700K. Now, they were looking at a different video of mine where I basically was comparing the 12700 to the i5 12600K. I have the 600K tomorrow. The 700F, 12700F will show up at my door, hopefully. And then we'll really get into comparing these. But I figured, you know what? Let's throw something else into this. So we could look at the i7 12700. We can look at the i7 12700K. And we can look at the i9 12900. All right. So plus the variants with the F in them. F means that it does not have integrated graphics. All right. So first thing to talk about, whether you should buy a CPU with or without integrated graphics. Now, performance-wise, you're not going to really notice any difference. If you notice any difference, it's because you got a better CPU out of a batch. Now, reasons to have integrated graphics. Personally, I think they're a hell of a lot easier to troubleshoot, folks. If you boot up your computer, it goes to a black screen. First thing I always do is take the graphics card off, reboot with the HDMI plugged in to the motherboard. And if it boots up, then hey, I know there might be something wrong with the driver related to the graphics card. Of course, if your motherboard has easy debug, you might look there first, right? A lot of things you might do first. You might also notice if you have RAM, etc., okay? But like I said, easier to troubleshoot with integrated graphics. Now, you can also game with a CPU that has integrated graphics. If you have a CPU that ends in an F, you're going to need a graphics card, right? So you can't game on it. These days, with graphics cards so expensive, some of you might go, you know what? I can only afford to spend so much. And right now, I want to get the best CPU I can get. So maybe you go out and buy an i9 12900, 12900K. And then later you get a graphics card. Or you use that crappy GTX 750 or 1050 that you have sitting around, or 1030. All right? Now, so that's something you have to decide yourself, all right? If it has an F in it, that also usually means the price is cheaper, folks. Let's go ahead and look at one example right here, because not all the CPUs are actually available right now. They're coming out this quarter, so anywhere between now and the end of March, right? So here's an example. All right, never mind this $15 off promo thing here, but we could factor it in. 12700K, $414, right? Basically $415. i7 12700KF, notice the F, $394.99. So that's a $20 price difference, right? That is, it's not always $20. The difference between the i5 12600K and the 600KF, the best I ever saw was $295 for the 12600K and $285 for the KF, all right? You can go on eBay sometimes and find them even better, but that was a $10 difference, okay? This is 20. All right, so that's something to factor in. If you're on a budget, maybe you have to get the KF, right? If you have a good graphics card or you have multiple graphics cards, having a CPU that ends in F is not that big a deal. All right, let's talk, just in general terms, performance. Since the i9 12900 is not actually available, can't really, say what the numbers will be. Now, not that everybody likes user benchmark, but unlike places where you just get a a score. This one kind of breaks it down to some of the different cores. And sometimes you can see why certain games play better than others just by this. Or why, you know, productivity or let's see, if you're compiling something, if you are doing a 3D animation render, different things like that, you know, multi-core might factor in more. Or if you're doing video editing. So just looking at this is the 12700F and the 12700KF. Once again, the KF is going to be more expensive. This overclockable CPU, that's what the K is. So right here, cheapest price, and this is what price I paid for it, 12700F, $330. According to this, I'm not sure. Okay, on eBay, $375, you can get the 12700KF. Now, according to these guys, the rankings, you know, for $45 more, you're getting the third best CPU versus the fifth best. All right. The scoring here, you know, which is kind of a joke, but that pretty much puts them neck and neck, right? You know, if you buy the 12700K, it's not like you're really bragging, right? You're not the number one CPU. You're still number 3, you know? So, looking at these numbers, some of these kind of, these first batch, you know, would factor in better for Fortnite, all right? You may run better on this CPU with Fortnite with all these scores a lot higher. These numbers are not going to matter. Case in point, i7 10700, i7 10700K, which I had both of. We also had the Ryzen 9 3900X. It had a higher multi-core score. However, it was absolutely terrible Fortnite. Okay, so that's why, you know, certain things matter. And understanding that is really where you need to be. But in this situation, folks, these CPUs are so similar. It's not until you overclock this guy that it really starts to pull away, okay? Now, does overclocking always matter to all the different applications? It doesn't always really do anything. Sometimes it does, though. Sometimes you might notice some of these bigger gains, right? I don't think you're going to see 9% increase in FPS. So let's say I was running 400 FPS with this 12700F. I doubt that I'm going to see 436 FPS. You know, maybe not, but most likely not. So if we had the 12900 in here, folks, it would be somewhere in the vicinity of the 12700K. You know, probably right around this area through the first 4, and then it's going to pull away on their 8-core scoring and the 64. It'll be higher than this. All right. So if you need the 12900 to do other things in gaming, you know, if you have stuff that really relies on multi-core performance, and there is quite a bit of stuff out there that it will matter, not necessarily gaming, you may want to pick the 12900 just based on that. Price-wise, folks, you see these prices. The 12900 is going to come in more expensive, but in some aspects, it may be cheaper than the 12700K, all right? So what do you need? Let me just make sure we're still recording. Okay. What do you need for a CPU cooler at a minimum for the 12900F? Well, Intel gives it to you for free. Intel's going to do the same thing, give you a free CPU cooler for the i7 12700 or the 12700F. They don't give you a CPU cooler for the i7 12700K. What does that mean? You got to spend some money, right? And even though this channel features a lot of cheap-ass CPU coolers on it, folks, get a quality CPU cooler, right? And that means spending probably a minimum of $50, All right. Now I'm a big Noctua fan. I would push them big time. I occasionally get free CPU coolers from different companies to try out on this channel. Fact is, I love Noctua. Wish they'd sponsor me, but this channel ain't good enough for them, right? So anywhere from $50 to $80 a minimum. Now, would I put something like this on the i7 12700K? Hell yeah, I would. All right. So you're talking $100. Personally, this is me. This may be some of you. Right now on the i5 12600K, I've got this. And if you watch the videos on the channel, it's kept those temps pretty darn good. So now if you watch the 5800X on the channel, it currently has this guy on it. All right. So looking back at this price, we go back here. If this really is the cheapest and you guys have an eBay account, $45 difference, right? However, tack on $50 to $100. Now you're $425. You're at $425, $475, somewhere in that range, okay? This guy also demands a better motherboard. Now, could I put this in the cheaper motherboards? Yes, I could, but you're ruining the point of getting the CPU. So let's look at motherboard prices. At the top, and this isn't necessarily the cheapest. I'll show you the cheapest Z690, all right? And depending on whether you want DDR4, DDR5, PCIe 5.0, 4.0, whatever, the price is going to vary. But 209, this is, probably the first cheap motherboard I would recommend. I bought this one. Actually, where's this guy right here? Okay. ASRock. Not the best quality motherboards, right? That said, what is the cheapest Z690 you can buy brand new? It's right here. This Phantom Gaming 4, which is honestly really boring. Plain Jane, okay? That's $180. Let's look at the price of the cheapest B660M. $94. This is ASRock. But the truth is, that is at least $80 plus the price of the CPU cooler, all right? For not much additional performance, folks. And if you wanted that performance and you still want it cheaper, guess what? When this comes out, if it comes out at $464, you could put this on the B660M if you wanted micro ATX. You have to spend a bit more to get full-size ATX, but let's say we want the most performance we can get at the cheapest price. This is going to be cheaper, getting this i9 later on, than the i7 12700K. That's going to set us back because of the CPU cooler and the motherboard, okay? Other options for motherboards, H670. Now, H670s are pretty much everything that the Z690 is. If you look at the brand and compare it, like the Asus Prime of this compared to a similar Z690 by Asus, gonna have just about everything in it except for the ability to overclock the CPU, okay? Now, at the bottom, sorry folks, at the very bottom is the Asus Prime H610M-E. This is absolute garbage. Stay away from these. There is an ASRock board that I showed, which was cheaper. I would get this one first, folks, before I get that other one, okay? Stay away from the H610s, even though I bought one. I'll probably buy this one too, just because we have so many CPUs and we don't have enough motherboards. All right. Well, there you go, folks. For those of you wanting good performance at bargain prices in this higher end, we'll say, go with the i7 12700F. If you don't care to overclock, but you want the same performance that somebody with an i7 12700K is going to get, and then maybe even more multi-core performance, go with the i9 12900, assuming the price comes out $419. Okay. If you want to tinker around and have some fun, and you already have a lot of this crap, CPU coolers, maybe you don't have a motherboard, but you want to have, the best motherboard. And that best motherboard is Z690. And what's the best CPU for that? It's going to be, out of these three, the i7 12700K. All right. So now I could put an i7 12700 on the, let's go back here, on this guy, right? But unlike the past, where I would be able to overclock RAM on it, I can overclock RAM on the Z690, the B660, and the H670. I just can't go beyond 3200 megahertz on the H610. So that is, yeah, folks, that's what this video is about, man. So tough call. Hope you guys got something out of it. And please like, please subscribe. Thank you.